everyone, and welcome to Songtrust's Royalty Estimator webinar. We're going to be talking about our Royalty Estimator today, how to use it. Welcome everyone who's here already.
Okay, so we're going to go over today's agenda. First, we're going to go and review the fundamentals of music publishing. Second, we're going to discuss some information about streaming royalties. And last but not least, we're going to show you guys how to use Songtrust Royalty Estimator tool.
Awesome. So I guess now's the time to introduce ourselves. Marvin and I are both on the client acquisition team. My name is Noelle, and I manage the client acquisition team. We are a lot of times walking people through their personal publishing situations and seeing if Songtrust ends up being a good fit for them and collecting their publishing royalties. And Marvin is part of that team.
Yes, like Noel said, we're on the client acquisition team. I am one of the publishing associates, so I might be one of the first folks that you talk to, and I will be able to answer any of your questions that you may have in terms of Songtrust or music publishing.
So let's get started.
Okay, so today we're going to review and we're going to go over a few parts of a song. So we're going to talk about the composition and the master recording. So these are your two parts of a song. These are your two copyrights. You have your composition, which is your publishing side, and you also have your master, which is your recording side. So the composition, it's owned by original songwriters or composers, and this is your music, lyrics, or melody. As for the master recording side, this is the final recording of the composition, and it's usually owned by the recording artist or maybe sometimes even the label. So how does this tie into music publishing? So the way that this ties in is that music publishing is basically the business of protecting and promoting your song copyrights, and on top of that, collecting the royalties that these copyrights generate. So one great thing that we have on our website is our royalty estimator tool, and this tool helps you provide the estimates on what would be, the earned generated royalties on your publishing site. So let's look at the royalties that are generated from your song. So we have your performance royalties, we have mechanical royalties, and we also have micro sync royalties. So for now, like I said, there are so many different ways that you can generate royalties from your original works, but through the lens of streaming, interactive streams will generate both your performance and your mechanical royalties. On top of that, a lot of people do ask us about, about microsync royalties. So the music on platforms for microsync royalties, such as YouTube and TikTok, they will generate royalties, which are, again, your microsync royalties. And these royalties also break down into both performance and mechanical royalties.
So now that we have that baseline recap of music publishing, we can get into what we're here to learn about, which is the streaming and rates that are a very hot topic. So just at the very base of things, I want to talk about the two different types of streams that exist, which are interactive and non-interactive streams. Interactive streams are basically anything where a user is using a DSP or a digital service provider like Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, where the user is choosing their next song. They're typically paying like a monthly subscription fee to use that interactive streaming service. And those interactive streams are generating both performance and mechanical royalties on the publishing side, just like Marvin mentioned. And then non-interactive streams are where the user is not choosing their next song. So some examples of that would be SiriusXM, internet radio, free Pandora accounts, and basically the user's just on there, whatever song pops up, they're listening to, more like a radio station. And those actually collect or generate digital performance royalties on the master side. And those are completely separate from publishing royalties, but still, if you own a portion of the master recording side, those would be owed to you, and you would collect those through Sound Exchange in the US. which I think we just got a question about. So hopefully that just covered it. Now to get into actual streaming rates. So this is data from 2018. So I do want to point that out, that it is a bit of outdated information, but this shows you an example of older rates that were calculated in the past, and that they do change depending on what platform the interactive stream happened on. So you can see them all laid out here. Some services pay much higher, some services pay much lower. And the DSPs, also known as digital service providers, work off of what is called a revenue share model. And this takes into account platform subscribers, like the number of platform subscribers, the type of subscriber that they are. So they could be using a free Spotify account, they could be using a family plan, or even a student plan. All of those things are going to be changing and being taken into account into that calculation. Whatever month that stream happens in, the amount of subscribers that are subscribed to that platform within that month, and other things as well, those are all included to define what the payout amounts are that go to the artists, the songwriters, composers, producers. So basically, there's a complex calculation that's done at each DSP, and it is based on the revenue that that DSP has generated for that month. From that revenue, a percentage is allocated to the artists, writers, and composers. And that is a long explanation for what a streaming rate is. And something important also to mention about streaming rates is this streaming rate is not just for publishing. These streaming rates that you see here are then broken down into what the master recording revenue would be, and then what the publishing revenue would be. The master recording revenue getting paid out through your distributor or your label, and that publishing revenue, you'd be working with your publisher to make sure you're collecting. Something else that I think is pretty important to mention about streaming rates, a lot of times, even with the Estimator tool, we get questions of why we provide a range of royalties that you would be owed for a specific song. And that is because there really is no way to calculate an exact number for an exact number of streams. You would have to know, let's say out of the 50,000 streams that you have on a song, which streaming service they were generated on, what type of account that person was using, where they're based in the world, all these different factors. So that is why there's not a way to get an exact figure until you actually collect the royalties that, that for those streams. So that's why Songtrust Royalty Estimator gives a range of estimates. And lastly, what I want to mention, which sometimes gets confused, is that these streaming rates are completely separate from what the typical physical statutory rate is for physical sales and digital downloads, which is that 9.1 cent per unit. Streaming and those rates and the revenue is completely separate. And now moving on to our royalty estimator. I'll pass it off to you, Marvin.
Alrighty. So like I said, we do have a royalty estimator that you can use. As you can see, it is on our homepage for you to be able to easily access, but also we're going to send a link out into the chat box, into this chat box, in order for you guys to be able to do it right away if you want to right now. So the way that our royalty estimator tool works is that you will have to enter one song at a time, but you can enter as many songs in your submission as you would like. So then after that, we provide the estimate of your songs with over 10,000 streams in North America. So these estimates are based on streaming numbers in the US and Canada only. So don't be discouraged. These are just North American streams.
Exactly. And what the estimator provides is a snapshot in time of what you would be owed for the song or songs that you enter. And note that these estimates will change from month to month. And this is an estimate of the total publishing royalties that your song would have accrued up until now. So it doesn't take into account if you've already collected a large portion of those, if you already are working with a publisher and you're already getting paid out those royalties, this estimate does not take that into account. It's more so to give you an idea of the total publishing royalties that have been generated for that amount of streams on your song, and it'll take into account your ownership percentage. And like Marvin mentioned, the automated estimates that go out from our estimator are only taking into account North American streams. So if you do have large audiences literally anywhere else in the world, which I know is very common, even if you are a music artist based in the US, you'll definitely want to let us know that. When you're submitting your royalty estimate, some of you might be seeing this if you clicked on the link in the chat box already, but when you are submitting your estimate and you're filling out that form, there's a checkbox that you can say that you want to speak to a sales rep about your estimate and about getting set up with Songtrust. And if you let us know in that message field that you have a lot of international listeners, one of our team members can provide you with a more accurate estimate for your global streams. What I'm showing here is where the estimator lives on our website, which is right on the homepage, super easy to get to. And then here is when you get to that royalty estimator tool, you would enter the song title, you would enter the percentage that you have. And I ran an example the other day to give this example on the bottom. I just entered one song, but I provided the example of the song Corso by Tyler, the Creator, for 25% ownership. This album just landed, it debuted at #1 on the Billboard Top 200. So I figured it would be a fun example for us to go over today. And to get this calculation, we estimate from the total North American streams, which we mentioned. So all streaming platforms in North America, the streams that have happened so far to date on the song, multiply that by the ownership percentage that you provide to us. In this case, I entered 25%. I don't know if someone owns 25% of the song. I was just, using it as an example. And then we multiply that by the historic streaming rates using both a low and high range. And that's what you can see here. On the bottom is the low estimate and the high estimate. If you do have questions about, when you are using the estimator, first of all, feel free to put them in the Q&A, but you could also use that message field and you'll be connected with someone on the client acquisition team to speak with you about your estimates and if you have any additional questions. So when you release your music with your distributor, it's available around the world. And your distributor, you're already set up to collect your master recording revenue and your master recording royalties generated from those streams. You're already set up to collect those just by releasing your music with the distributor. But you also need to be considering how you're going to receive those publishing royalties for those same exact streams. And that's where Songtrust comes in. So you do have to be working with a publisher to collect your global publishing royalties, whether that is being signed to a traditional publishing company or working with a global publishing administrator like Songtrust. So as you can see on this map that I'm showing here, these are just some of the many pay sources and societies that exist around the world and that Songtrust is directly affiliated with. So by registering your song with Songtrust, we would then register it with our global network of affiliates to ensure that you are receiving your global publishing royalties, both performance and mechanical, also microsync, which end up being performance and mechanical anyway, but that's often a big concern for people as YouTube and TikTok are very popular platforms. We work with over 60 pay sources around the world, which covers over 245 territories and countries. In terms of pricing and fees, we do have a one-time sign-up fee, which is $100 per collecting writer, and then a 15% commission of the royalties that we collect on your behalf. And as a thank you for joining Marvin and I today to learn more about the royalty estimator and to learn more about Songtrust and for being such a great crowd. I see all the questions that you're entering. I do want to share this 25% off discount code. It'll be valid until tomorrow at the end of the day. We're going to share it in the chat box right now, but we'll also be sharing the code at the end of the webinar, and you can just copy and paste it on the sign up page. And just as a, for the 11-ish years that we've been around, we now are working with over 350,000 songwriters representing over 3 million copyrights. So this, just shows you how many people were in need of publishing coverage and publishing collection, but weren't able to get it because they weren't in the 1% of, top earning songwriters and producers and composers to be working with those traditional publishing companies. And I think it actually might be a good idea, Marvin, if you want to maybe throw in an example of like a writer who is, affiliated with ASCAP in the US and what their collection would be and what they're missing out on without working with a publisher to make it a little bit more concrete for everyone.
So sorry, can you say that one more time?
Yeah, so let's just use an example of like maybe like a US based writer who is affiliated with a PRO and what their setup is now and how it would compare to working with a publisher. Because I think I see a lot of questions coming in about that.
Okay, yeah. So if you are with a PRO, then you will already probably have received maybe like a writer share or something along the likes. So that's just one type of share that you're receiving with your PRO. So if you are with someone such as Songtrust, a publishing entity, then you'll be collecting on that publisher side of what your PRO will be paying out for your performance royalties, and also we will be covering the mechanical aspect of it because you will also be receiving a publisher share from that. So we streamline everything. We make it a lot easier for you. That way you just hop on our site and won't have to worry about that. But not only in North America, so US and Canada, but also worldwide, which is something that we always tell everyone, the ease of access of being able to collect on a global scale.
Yeah, and as Marvin mentioned, like the ease of access thing is really big because when you are working with a PRO, you're registering your song at that one PRO, let's say ASCAP, that means that you are set up to collect your performance royalties in the US. But what about your mechanical royalties in the US and your global performance in mechanical? And you only have to register the song once with Songtrust and it gets sent out to all of the 60 plus pay sources that we work with. So I guess we can do some the Q&A portion now. I see a lot of questions coming in, so thank you everyone for sending those. We pinpointed some frequently asked questions beforehand that Marvin and I are going to run through and be pulling some out of the Q&A as well. So we'll get started on those to start.
Okay, so yeah, like Noel said, these are commonly asked questions. So one of the first and main ones that we always get asked is, why does your estimator only estimate songs that are on Spotify?
So that is because in order to locate your songs, we use Spotify's API. They're actually the only streaming service with an open API, which is why we use it. So we use that API to locate your songs, and then we're able to get the data for the North American streams. So we do pull data from all the streaming services, but we're able to locate the songs through Spotify's open API. Another one is, do the estimates include retroactive royalties?
So the estimates that we provide are the potential royalties that the song has generated up until this point.
So does the estimate take into account whether I've collected in the past or had a previous publisher?
So in this case, no, the estimate is all the potential royalties that the song has generated up until this point.
Okay, what if I don't live in the US? Can I still use the estimator?
Okay, so if you don't live in the US, you can still use the estimator. Regardless of where you are based, you will have audience and fans outside of North America. So the estimate you receive is probably a lot lower than it should be. But if you do, like Noel said earlier, if you do let us know in the message section of the submission that you have international listeners, then we will look into that as well. Okay, so
why does the amount for my song change from estimate to estimate?
So the reason behind that is that we are pulling data in real time. And this is an indicator of our estimator tool being as accurate as it can and changing with the streams that you are generating day by day. So it is up to date for the most part, and that's why you will see maybe something different from what we will present to you. Okay, so another question that we always get is if I am already with a PRO, am I collecting on these royalties already?
Yeah, so this, is something that we touched on before, but I think it's really important to get down the difference between being with a PRO and working with a publisher. So by being with your PRO, you are set up to collect the royalties that your PRO collects. And we used the ASCAP example before, but we could use another example, like let's say you are based in the UK and you are affiliated with PRS, which is the PRO out there. You are set up to collect the royalties that PRS collects, mainly from the UK, and then if they're able to get from other places as well, they will. But what Songtrust provides as a publishing administrator is direct registration with all of the pay sources that we work with. So if any of those pay sources has money for you and your songs, they know exactly where to pay it, instead of those royalties potentially, waiting around, going to, other writers if they're unallocated and end up getting paid out to the top writers, at the end of the year, then, we're trying to avoid that in any case. So being with a PRO is a really great start. You have to be affiliated with a PRO, as a songwriter or composer to collect any royalties on the publishing side, but you do have to take it a step further to work with a publisher in order to be covered for that global publishing royalty collection. All right, let's pull out some other questions here.
Okay.
Let's see.
Here's one. So one question that we do get, if I may answer this one, is how is sorry, what was the question? How is what you do any different from CD Baby Pro? So that's a really, really good question. So the thing with CD Baby Pro is that we are also a music publishing admin on their behalf. However, there is a price difference when it comes down to CD Baby Pro. CD Baby Pro, other distributors, they might include that fee in whatever you will be deciding on releasing your music with. So if you're doing a single, it will be included in that single price. If you're doing an album, it will be included in that album price. So the price difference is there. When you come to us directly, then you won't be seeing those extra fees. However, it is something useful for some folks that they want to just have a CD Baby Pro on their own. However, if the pricing is something that you are looking into, then being with Songtrust directly will be a lot more beneficial to you.
Yeah, and there are, like CD Baby, other distributors that offer publishing admin services as an add-on. What Songtrust does is it's our only operation. We work on the global publishing admin, we stick to what we're good at, and we have a dedicated client services team here to help you along the way, as well as before you sign up. If you do need to talk to someone about your additional questions, you can speak with Marvin or someone else from the team. So we're here to walk you through this process. We know that it can be super confusing. So we're definitely here to keep that open communication. Let's see. Another one is, I just use the estimator. It tells me the song I submitted doesn't have enough streams for an estimate. Both songs got more than 10 million on YouTube and Spotify separately. Why might I have gotten this message? So it is possible that those streams that you're referring to happened outside of North America. If you didn't already, check off the checkbox on the royalty estimator to speak to a sales rep and let us know about that, and we can provide you with a more accurate estimate, including those streams, because like we mentioned earlier, those automated estimates are pulled from just North American streaming data.
Right. So another question that we usually always get is, what about Sound Exchange? Do you collect from them? So Sound Exchange will be collecting on your master side. And like we said earlier, Songtrust, we're focusing on the composition publishing side. Not to say that you shouldn't be with Sound Exchange. We always suggest that you do, only because we want you to collect your full royalties if you are doing a do-it-yourself model. But those are two separate entities, and we are the ones that are in charge of collecting on your composition publishing side.
Exactly. Need both. We got one here, a quick and easy one. Why do I have to give my email in order to submit an estimate? That is because we have to provide you with your estimate. So you would get your estimate via email, which is why we require the email when you submit it. Another one here. So am I right in understanding that Songtrust acts as a sub-publisher for other territories? Do you also collect mechanicals? So Songtrust is not a sub-publisher. We are a global publishing administrator. So when you sign up for Songtrust and register your songs through us, we are registering your songs on your behalf, not only with your PRO, but with all of the pay sources that we work with. So it's a bit different than sub-publishing, and we do collect mechanicals. So we work with pay sources, PROs, mechanical pay sources around the world, so that you can receive your global performance and mechanical royalties. We also work with YouTube and TikTok directly to make sure those microsync royalties are coming in and you truly have that full coverage.
Okay, I think we can do a few more. So one that I'm seeing here is, do you guys work with writers or artists only, or publishing admin companies as well? So Songtrust does work with many different characters in the music industry. So we can work with managers, we can work with publishers, we can work with like smaller labels in that situation. And we also have different types of tools that you can use on our platform in order for you to be able to successfully manage your clients.
Yep. And that is in addition to working with artists, writers, composers. It really is anyone who has an ownership percentage of a song and needs to collect that publishing ownership percentage or the royalties that are owed to that. Let's see. I'm hearing you say that I need to be affiliated with a publisher in order to have royalties collected. Does Songtrust act as a publisher, or do I need to have a publisher as well? Songtrust does act as a publisher in being a publishing administrator. You do have to be working with a publisher to collect your global performance and mechanical royalties. It's, I would say, pretty much impossible or very, very hard to locate where your streams are happening in real time and then make sure that you're collecting from those exact territories. There are pay sources in certain countries that require you to be a publisher of a certain size, that's been around for a certain amount of years, that has a certain amount of writers that are based in that country. So there's a lot of hoops to jump through, not loops, that Songtrust has already done. So by signing up with Songtrust, you're able to take advantage of those relationships that we already have globally and make sure that your collection is all set. And I think we can do one more. I think we have one more minute.
Okay.
You want to pull one out?
I think one of the other questions that we got was I think we're going to relate it back to Songtrust. So does a PRO require an annual fee, or is it a one-time membership fee? So for the PROs, they might require a one-time membership fee, which is very similar to what we do here at Songtrust. So just bringing it back, maybe if you had that question in regards to Songtrust as well. So Songtrust, one-time registration fee, 15% commission for the work that we do, but you get to keep 100% of your ownership rights, which is something that we always stress to everyone that wants to, again, do it yourself or is doing it on their own at the moment, that the ownership of a song will remain yours, and you won't have to keep paying over and over. It's just a one-time registration fee for Songtrust as well.
Exactly. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today and being so interactive in the chat box and in the Q&A. That really makes it a great webinar, so we can interact with everyone and their questions and make sure we're hitting on all the points that we should be. And don't forget to follow us on socials, subscribe to our newsletter, and feel free to reach out with any additional questions and use the estimator. You'll see the difference between what the estimator is showing you and what you may have already collected by just being with your PRO. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.